Hey everyone, this is BlendMaster here with another tutorial, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to create this cool grass scene inside of Blender. And this isn't going to be like a normal tutorial because we're going to be using a product called Grass Free, and it's amazing. It's free so anyone can use it and create stunning scenes that look photorealistic. So to download it, you're going to want to head over to wolfflow.weebly.com. And here you can check out all the other products that this guy Marco has created. They're really amazing. He's got a sky generator for free to create some really cool clouds for any scene that you have. And he's also working on a photorealistic shader pack for everyone. But what we want is this grass product right here. And all you have to do is press download and open it up, and it's ready to go. If you want, you can check out this trailer, see all the other cool scenes that you can make using this free product. And here are the different models that are included. There's 9 grass models as well as 9 different weeds. And if you want to create a photorealistic nature scene, you gotta have weeds. And he's provided us with some really useful tools, so I'm really grateful. And this is just amazing. So let's get started. I'm just going to open up the file right here, and immediately you can see all of our grass models are right here ready to go, and our weeds are over here. He's also created some particle systems for us as well, so that we can just open up or add a plane, plug in a particle system, and we're ready to render. So I'm going to open up a new scene. I'm going to name it grass, and let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is add in a plane. So Shift A, Mesh Plane, and I'm going to tab into Edit Mode, scale it up by 10, press W to subdivide it. I'm going to bring up the number of cuts to 10, and I'll subdivide it 2 more times. Okay, now I'm going to add in a camera. Go to Front View, press Ctrl Alt 0 to snap our camera to view, and Alt G to center it. Now I'm just going to position it by moving it around with G and Z, and then just dragging it back out like that. Okay, that's looking good. I'm just going to tab into edit mode and scale this up some more so that the edges are out of our camera's view. And I'm going to turn on proportional editing by pressing O. I'll select a vertex right here and press G and Z to drag it up so we can create sort of a hill like that. I'll do one right here. It's looking good. Select one of these and just drag them down so it's not as high as the other areas. We'll also select one point over there like that. And that's looking pretty good. Might drag that down a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to give this a smooth shading. Add a subdivision surface modifier, set it to 2. And then I'm going to add a displacement modifier. We'll name this big. I'm going to set the strength to 0.25. We'll click this here so we can edit our texture. And I want it to create some big bumps, so we're going to increase the size to 1. I'll go back and add another subsurf modifier, set it to 1 and 1. Add another displace modifier. We'll name this one small. Whoops. Okay. And I'm going to bring the size down to 0.1 and change our texture size to 0.1 as well so that we can get some fine detail in here. And I'm just going to hide all of these so that our viewport doesn't lag. I'll add in one more subsurf modifier like that. And I think that's good. Now I'm going to head over to Cycles Render and we're going to create our material. I'm going to name it Dirt. And I'm going to name the plane Ground. And I'll save, because you always want to make sure you save. You never want to forget, because Blender might crash and then you will be screwed. So I'm adding an environment texture right now. This is just a picture I took outside. And I'm going to uncheck camera under ray visibility because I'm actually going to add in an image of a sky that I created in Blender. I'll rotate this by 90 on the x-axis and switch it from diffuse to emission. I'll just scale this up so you can see it. I'm also going to position this back here, scale it up some more and rotate it like that. And if we take a look, you can see we have a really cool sky inside of Blender. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Now we'll get on to editing our dirt material. Whoops. Okay, I'm just going to press Control B and select this little area right here so we can focus on the dirt right there. And now I'm going to drag up a new window here, switch it from 3D view to node editor, and let's get started with this material. So I'm just going to add in a mix shader and a glossy shader, and we're going to set this glossy shader to a roughness with 0.5 so that it's smooth around. It's not going to be really shiny. And I'm going to bring the roughness of the diffuse shader to 1 so it'll look more like sand or dirt instead of some plastic material. I'm also going to change this color to make it a brown, light brown color. Something like that. Maybe a little brighter. Okay, that's looking good. And I'm going to add a Fresnel node right now. Switch this index of refraction to 1.333 and plug that into our factor. If we zoom out and look at our hill right here, I'm going to just enable our displacement really quickly so we can see what it looks like. And you can see we're getting some nice reflections along those bumps right there. But I want to add in a sunlight right now so that we can get some more light. So Shift A, lamp, sun. I'm going to rotate it to about there. Give it a nice orangish color. That. Set the strength to 5 and the size to 0.01. And what that does is it creates a really bright light with harsh shadows like this. And I'm going to duplicate this sun. I'm going to set the strength to 1 and the size to 0.1 so that we get some softer shadows. I'll duplicate it one more time, set the strength to 0.1 and the size to 1 so we'll get some even softer shadows. And that's looking really good. So I'm going to go back to our plane right here. I'm going to disable our modifiers again, and we're going to start with our ground texture. So Shift A, texture coordinate, and then add in our noise texture and our Voronoi texture. And I'm just going to plug in the object value into both of these. And then I'm going to add in a color ramp node, and I'm going to switch it from linear to B-spline, drag this halfway up, and make it a really dark brown color like that. That's looking good. Okay, and then we're just going to copy and paste this light brown color for here. And then we'll plug this in and duplicate it here and plug our Voronoi texture in. Now I'm going to add in a color mix RGB node, plug both of these in, and set the factor to 1 and switch it from mix to add. And this is going to be plugged into our diffuse shader. Now I'm going to bring all of this back and add another color ramp node right here. Plug that in, and I'll bring in a emission shader so we can see what it looks like. Just plug that in, and we can see our texture here. And we want to increase this contrast so that we can get a nice bump. So I'm just going to drag this in all the way. That's looking good, but it's a little too strong, so I'm going to add in a mix RGB node, set it to multiply with a factor of 1, and I'm going to decrease the value of this to 0.25 so it's not as bright. It'll be darker, and as a result the bump won't be as strong. So I'll plug that into our displacement and we'll take a look. And that's looking really nice. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom out and press Ctrl B and drag it over the entire thing. And we have our dirt material completely done. So I'm going to save again. And now let's get started with our particle system for our grass. Let's just add a new particle system. And I'm going to type in Bermuda because that's the grass I'm going to be using. And immediately you can see all the grass is set, ready to go and render if you want. But I'm going to tweak some of these settings to how I want it to be. Okay, so I'm going to hide the particle system so that our viewport doesn't lag. And here I'm going to make sure the number is 5000, the size is 0.4 with the random size of 0.5, and we want to make sure that children is selected, simple, and the render is set to 10 with a random size of 0.75. And we want to create a vertex group called Bermuda for our particle system so that this front area is very dense with all of our grass and the back it fades off. So let's go to weight paint mode, set the strength to 1, switch it to add, and I'm going to come down here to weight gradient and just drag this up like this. Okay, I'm going to press Ctrl Z and do it again like that. And that's looking really good. Okay, so I kind of want this area to have a little less grass because I'm going to put some weeds over there. So I'm going to switch it to subtract and give it a strength of 0.2 and just eat away at this area like that. And that's looking nice. Okay, so I'll go to object mode now and head over to our particle system, and under density here we're going to select our Bermuda vertex group. And also under textures there should already be a Bermuda texture, and if we head over to the texture panel you're going to want to make sure, you want to select the particle system texture here, and you want to make sure that everything is unchecked except for length, and you want to set it to 1. And that's good. So now we're going to add our other particle system now, and this is going to be clover. Okay, you want to set the number to 500, size to 0.1, random size 0.5, and then add some children as well, simple, and you want it to be 10 with a size of 1 and random size of 0.5. And then we're going to create another vertex group for this, and we'll call it clover. And we'll go to weight paint mode, and I'm just going to add some right in that area that we took away from before. So right here I'm just going to add some just like that, and maybe a few for over there like that, and I think that's good. Maybe just a little bit more there. Okay, now I'm going to go to object mode, and I'm going to go back to our modifier tab and hide our particle system so that my viewport doesn't lag. And under density we're going to select that clover vertex group again, and we want to make sure that the Bermuda texture is applied and that it has the length checked with a value of 1. So that's pretty much it for the particles. And now what I want to do is add a sun right here. So press Shift A, Mesh, Icosphere, give it smooth shading and a subsurf modifier level 2. We're going to position this in that upper left hand corner right there. Okay, right there. Okay, that's looking good. And I'm going to name it Sun, and I'm also going to give it a material and name it Sun. We'll switch it to emission shader, and I'm going to give it a yellowish color, slight yellow, and give it a strength of 10. And that's looking really good. Now, one thing that I want to do is I'm going to actually move this sphere to our second layer, and here I'm going to name this layer grass, add a new one, and name it sun, and just select the second layer here and the first one here. And I'm going to save it again and just quickly render it out. I'm going to set my tiles to 16 by 16 because I'm rendering on CPU, and I'll render it at 10 samples just for the sake of the tutorial. So I'll pause it and come back when it's done rendering. Okay, so that turned out nice, but as you can see here that there's not a lot of grass, so we're going to have to go back to our vertex group for our Bermuda texture and add some more paint right there. So I'm just going to come over here to add, switch it to 0.2, and then just add some more like that. Oops. Okay, just like that. Just add some more so it'll be a little more dense back here. Okay, that should do it. I'm just going to come over here and unhide it so we can see. And yeah, there's a lot more grass there. And I'm also going to bring this sky down a little bit more, like that. Okay, so I'm going to render it out one more time and I'll come back when it's done. Alright, so it's done rendering, and we're going to head over to the compositors to do a little bit of dark magic. Okay, so we want to check use nodes and backdrop. And I'm going to drag these out. Press Ctrl Shift and left click to bring up our viewer node. And first thing I want to do is add in a RGB curve node like this, and just brighten up our scene slightly. And then I'm also going to decrease our green like that because I thought it was a little too saturated. I'm going to add in a color balance node, and I'm just going to tweak these so that it's a little bit warmer. So the lift, I'm going to make it a very light orange. The gamma I'll make a very light yellow, and the gain I will make a light red. And that's looking a lot better. It looks a lot warmer and nicer, and I like it. So what we're going to do after this is decrease our saturation. I'm going to bring it down to 0.95 or 0.9, and immediately it looks a lot more realistic because it's not as saturated. I'm also going to decrease our value by 0.95 so it's a little darker. And that's looking pretty good. So now what I want to do is add in a vignette. So I'm going to add in our ellipse mask, just increase the size until the edge is right about there. So that's good. And then same thing with the height. Drag it up so it's right at the top, like that. And then press Shift A, filter blur, fast Gaussian, relative Y, and 25 by 25. And then I'm going to press Shift A, color mix, add. I'm going to duplicate it and press 0.5. And then duplicate this one more time, switch it to multiply, and plug this in, and set the factor to 1. I might decrease this slightly. Let's look at it. Right about there. That's looking good. And you can see that our middle is really bright while towards the edge it fades out. And that's a really nice effect. Okay? And we created our second scene there named sun. So I'm going to duplicate this render layer node here and switch it from grass to sun. and apparently it did not render, so I'll go back and check that out. I didn't have that layer selected, so I'm just going to select the second layer here, go back and just press this render button right there, and it'll render out just that one layer. And there we go. So what I want to do with this is create a nice lens flare sort of effect. So to do that, I'm going to press Shift A, glare, set it to ghost, set the iterations to 5, set the quality to high, and then color modulation to 1, and mix to 1, and threshold to 3. Okay, that's looking good. Now I want to duplicate this add node right here, plug it in both times, and set the factor to 10 so we can brighten this up a lot. And that's looking good. Now I want to duplicate this hue saturation value node and set the saturation to 0.75 and the value to 1. And I'll duplicate this multiply node here, and I'm going to tint it so that our lens flare looks yellowish. So just bring that down there, and that should look nice. There we go. Now I'm going to duplicate our blur right here, plug in our original sun image, set the X and Y to 2 by 2, and duplicate our multiply node here. And I don't want it to be as dark, so I'll decrease the saturation to 0.75, or maybe even 0.5. That's looking good. And I'll duplicate our multiply node and switch it to add so that we can add both of these images together. I'll duplicate it one more time and plug this in right here. Okay, that's looking really nice. One thing I want to do though is right in between this and this, I'm going to add in a lens distortion, and I'm going to set the dispersion to 0.5 so that it stretches out and looks cool like this. And there you go, a really cool looking grass scene in Blender. We're going to do some more editing though. I might bring that factor up to 50 just to see how it looks. And that's looking a lot brighter and nicer, so I'm going to keep it like that. And I'm just going to drag this composite node down here and plug in our last node into it. And go back here, see if it loads. Click it one more time, Control Shift and left click so that it'll reload here. Now we're going to go back to our scene and switch this from 3D view to UV image editor. Now I'm going to go over here to our scene and open up color management. We're going to switch it from default to film, set the exposure to 0.25 and the gamma to 1.5, and immediately that you can see a really huge change in the way our scene looks. And then we'll click Use Curves. I'm going to make a point right here in the center and then drag this point up here so that we can brighten the center area of our scene. I bring it up a little more. Nope, that's a little too much. Okay, then in the red section I'm going to drag this all the way to here so that it's more red. Then I'll drag the green up to here, and then I'm going to drag the blue down a little bit like that. And that looks really nice. You have a cool stylish looking grass scene done completely inside of Blender. If you want, you can decrease the brightness of the sun in the compositor so it'll be not as bright here. But other than that, it looks pretty nice. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, I hope you learned something new. If you have any suggestions for future tutorials, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And please share with me your responses, or not your responses, but the results you guys come up with. I really love to see what you guys come up with after following along the tutorial and your own interpretation. Also, for this scene, my final render was done with 100 samples. This I did with 10 samples just for the sake of the tutorial. So when you're rendering out yours, you might want to render it at a higher sample so you won't get all of this grain. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Bye.